today on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. Woohoo! The whole community gets to hear this really, really important topic. I want to talk about magnesium today because it is, like, I think one of the most underestimated mineral that is out there. And good morning, everyone. Some of you is good morning, some of you is afternoon. So how many of you here have watched the video from last week? I talked about sleep, all these different ways that you can improve your sleep. So if you are struggling with sleep, I highly recommend for you to watch that video. It's called Fixing Sleep After 45. It's available on all our channels. Just look at the past videos. And we also have an article on our blog on hormonesbalance.com about sleep. So it took me about 8 months to put this article together, and so I was taking a lot of notes and eventually turned that into an article. And in doing so, I also was doing a lot of research, both scientifically but also anecdotally, just to see what people are saying and who gets the best, different. So I questioned different groups, women's groups, and my Aura ring, which I'm not wearing right now, Aura ring. Forums, etc., etc. And so the consensus was that one of the biggest things that helped people with sleep was magnesium. And it's not surprising because, as you're going to learn today, it's got so many different benefits. It's pretty amazing. Before I dive into magnesium, just one quick announcement that we are launching our Estrogen Reset Live program, meaning that we're going to be working with you for a period of 4 weeks in the live program, where we're gonna be doing it together. So we're gonna be cooking together, we're gonna be shopping together, we're gonna be doing questions and answers. I'm gonna do them weekly live with you. You're gonna be given meal plans, recipes, and the whole idea is to help you overcome estrogen dominance and all the symptoms associated with estrogen dominance, which, if you're not familiar, there will be, and I'm pretty sure many of you have already heard me talking about a lot of them. And that is things like having lumpy fibrocystic breast, having fibroids, thyroid nodules. Actually, a lot of women with hypothyroidism also have a lot of estrogen dominance. If you're suffering from fibroids, if your period is all over the place, you're going through perimenopause, and your period is particularly difficult, hot flashes, if you are having a lot of fat around your hips that you just can't get rid of, if you've been diagnosed with uterine polyps, it's another symptom of estrogen dominance. And the list goes on. So it's quite amazing. What are the things that we can do? So we're going to be working with nutrition. We're going to be working with a few supplements, and I'm going to be also teaching about some herbs that can make a profound difference. And so we're going to be working on your liver, on your gut restoration with really simple recipes, following the basis of the elimination diet, which means that all recipes are free of gluten, dairy, soy, etc. So if you're interested, just go to hormonesbalance.com and you can see there's a big banner there that is going to send you notifications. We're going to open up doors on the 9th of September. So it's just in a few days. And if you want to be reminded, then put in your email in there. All right, let's move on to magnesium. And really, that's what the big topic for today is. And so who here wants to share, you've taken magnesium and maybe it has helped you, and maybe you want to talk about what kind of magnesium, what form of magnesium have you taken to help yourself? So today I want to talk about, how do you know if you're low on symptoms? And most people are, especially like if you're craving chocolate, that's like a 101 symptom of potentially having a thyroid issue. Having a magnesium deficiency is when you are craving chocolate. And we're going to talk about food and cacao and all the different foods high in magnesium in a second. And then we're going to talk about different forms of magnesium, how much to dose, like what is the right dosage. Yours is going to be different from mine or from your friend. We're going to be then talking about the different forms. And then I would also like to talk about the magnesium rotation method. So using different kinds of magnesiums throughout the day. Okay. So do share with us if you're taking magnesium right now, how has it helped you? And so, I just want to kind of go back in time. My appreciation for magnesium started about 7-8 years ago. When I got this book called The Magnesium Miracle. If you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend it, by Carolyn Dean. She's both an MD as well as an ND. So it's kind of a nice combination, right, of being, MD both. So she's a double doctor. And she's written this book, Magnesium Miracle, that really opened up my eyes to the magnesium is not just for constipation. It's not just to sleep well. Yes, it can help tremendously, but it can also, there's so much more to it. And so if you are, this kind of ties in with what I'm going to talk about, and that's symptoms of low magnesium. So that's coming up in just a second. Village Green is saying magnesium glycinate is a favorite for stress and anxiety. Awesome. Yeah, that's one of our favorite forms as well. So stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about the other types of magnesium too. So there is a whole part of here that she elaborates. And remember, she's an MD and an ND. And one of the things that's kind of telling in this book is about her struggles with the allopathic medicine, right, with her colleagues in the clinic and the hospital who are treating patients, for example, for anxiety or cardiovascular diseases, including things like, for example, arrhythmia is one of the common causes of the common cause oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes can be low magnesium. It should be, at least should be ruled out, but it isn't a lot of the time. And so it's really fascinating how she talks about it here, her struggles with her colleagues saying, have you checked the magnesium levels? And a lot of the time the answer is no, and it's dismissed. It's like almost like it's too simple of a solution, right? And I think that's one of the things with allopathic medicine is that, it has to be complicated, it has to be expensive, there has to be some kind of a medication for it, because just a simple magnesium isn't sexy enough. So she talks here about magnesium-dependent conditions, right, and it's got a whole chapter, including science behind it, that covers anxiety and depression, migraines and pain, strokes, head injury, and brain surgery. So that includes TBI, for those of you who had traumatic brain injury, cholesterol and hypertension, magnesium and heart disease, obesity syndrome X, which is basically a metabolic disorder, and diabetes, pre-diabetes, PMS, dysmenorrhea, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And we're going to talk about magnesium and hormones in just a second. Guess what? Also infertility, pregnancy, and cerebral palsy. Osteoporosis and kidney stones, also low magnesium, okay? Another one would be chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, environmental illness, asthma, health and longevity. How about that, right? So great book. If you don't have the time to read books, then we have put a great article for you together. It's on our blog, and Kamalani, who's helping me here today, who's one of our team members, she's gonna pop it on the screen so you guys can look at the article that talks about the different deficiencies of magnesium. I'm gonna cover them in a second as well. Hey, you guys, when you're on Instagram, we can't post much there right now, but what we can do is point you to our website, and it's all there. So I wanna just, let me see, what else do I wanna, so a couple of things I just really want to call out. When you have a low magnesium levels, like very instantly, like one of the things that is very, very telling is when you're craving chocolate. And I know, I think, do I have lipstick on my teeth? I think I might. Oh, sorry, I need to get this right. Okay. So one of the very telling things is when you're craving chocolate. And a lot of times it's not the sugar you're craving. It could be that you're also craving sugar, that too. But if it's specifically chocolate, you don't care for, let's say, a lemon pie, but you definitely want your chocolate cake, right? Then it is, what's interesting about it is that cacao is significantly high in magnesium. And so what your body is used to, what is conditioned to do is every time it gets a hit of a hit of cacao, right? You have the cacao, then the body goes, oh, I'm getting a hit of magnesium. I need it so badly. And so that's the reason why you're craving. Cravings are really fascinating because cravings is your body's way of telling you what it needs from you, what support it needs from you, okay? So craving chocolate would be one. I wouldn't call it a symptom, but it's more like a sign, okay? The symptoms on the low magnesium will be things like you often have muscle spasms from a lot of times in your feet. It can be in your calves. When you're going to sleep, you might be experiencing like a lot of tightness in your shoulders, right? When you're going to bed, that could be due to low magnesium. It could be other things too, like for example, low potassium is common too, but magnesium should be ruled out. Another one is frequent headaches. So many people here are on medication because of headaches and migraines. Well, rule out, make sure that you address magnesium deficiency before you do anything else. Feeling constantly fatigued and weak. Anxiety and edginess. That's a real classical one. One of my dear colleagues, Trudy Scott, is working with the different anxiety is her expertise area. And Trudy, one of the first things that she does when she works with patients is that she tests them for magnesium levels, and she rules out magnesium deficiency as one of the first things when she works with an anxiety patient. We have also quick exhaustion after exercise or during exercise and poor recovery. And we're going to talk about my favorite form of magnesium for exercise, after exercise. So stay tuned for that one. And a very, very classical one is insomnia. So for those of you who are having either problem falling asleep or waking in the middle of the night, so many of you last week when I did the video on, I did a talk on how to fix your sleep after 45. And so many of you have chimed in and you said, the minute I started taking magnesium, my sleep has been so much better. And that is a common, it's not the only thing that can fix sleep. Some people who can have a lot of other problems with sleeping, but that could be one of the things that you can try, an easy, inexpensive, and safe way of correcting, that issue. So those are the other thing I would also mention in short term is very common is constipation. So, you know that how much of a problem is something when you go to like Walgreens, for example, or CVS or whatever, those pharmacies, and you walk in there and it's like a big long aisle of GI stuff, and half of it is for constipation, all forms of different forms of laxatives, stool builders, etc. So that tells you how much of a problem something is. And let me tell you, that aisle is very, very long. So you're not alone in this. And constipation is, it's another topic altogether, but magnesium deficiency could also be due to that. I also have a list in the article that Kamalani posted about long-term chronic deficiency. That's so, like I mentioned a little bit from just now from the book, The Magnesium Miracle, heart arrhythmias and heart attack, even depression, arthritis and osteoarthritis, kidney stones, fibromyalgia, inflammation, just general body inflammation, blood clots, inflammatory bowel disease, seizures, numbness, and tingling. Those are, here we're talking about severe long-term magnesium deficiencies, okay? Even stroke, osteoporosis. Magnesium is interesting about osteoporosis. A lot of you here are having osteoporosis or osteopenia issues. And the interesting thing is, like, when you see a regular, when I say regular, I mean like your allopathic, non-functional, it's kind of funny to say non-functional doctor. So a doctor who's not trained in functional medicine, okay, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of non-functional too. So, with that, and if you have osteoporosis, the first thing they do is they put you on calcium, right? And here's the ridiculous thing is that there's so much research that shows that your bones, right? Your bones actually are built of just a percentage of calcium, but the rest is, it needs magnesium, K2, vitamin D3, it needs boron, manganese, and there's a few other ones, progesterone and estrogen as well. So it's kind of funny just giving people calcium and expecting results. Ain't gonna work. Anyway, magnesium and calcium are like this together for osteoporosis, hypertension, high cholesterol, memory issues, and various different heart diseases. So wow, right? Who would have thought? So many things that magnesium impacts you. And it also impacts your hormones. So we're going to talk about estrogen reset and, we're going to talk about estrogen dominance and magnesium in just a second. So it's a really magical, mineral. And the cool thing is that it just really helps you. It's just so easy to replenish and is so inexpensive as a mineral, so widely available, right? We're going to talk about the different forms of magnesium. I know you guys are asking about the types of magnesium. So just stay tuned. I'll talk about it in a second. I just want to still talk about a little bit about benefits. The reason why we call it a super mineral is that it's going to help you with production of energy. Remember how we went to school and there was this whole ATP thing in your Krebs cycle, right? And so, well, guess what? And magnesium helps you build energy and create energy in the cells, in the mitochondria. It helps you build bones. It converts food into fuel. So actually, in some ways, it can help a little bit with weight loss. It relaxes your muscles. It regulates your body temperature, and that's because of thyroid. I'm going to talk about thyroid in just a second. It helps you with your digestion, utilization of proteins, carbs, and fats, so how your body is utilizing these macronutrients, rebuilding RNA and synthesizing your DNA, filters out toxins like mercury, aluminum, and lead because of liver support. So more on that in just a second. So it's pretty marvelous, right? And, because I am hormones balanced and we are all about hormones, I also want to talk a little bit about a few different things that I want you to appreciate, and I think you will, about the role of magnesium in your hormonal health, okay? So one of the things that magnesium helps with is, for those of you who are on thyroid medication, for example, you have a low thyroid function. So the way the thyroid works is that the thyroid produces the T4 hormone, and if you're on thyroid replacement therapy, such as you taking Synthroid, you still taking the synthetic version of T4. It needs to be converted to T3, and the conversion, magnesium is one of the facilitators of converting T4 to T3. And guess what? T3 hormone is the bioactive. That's what makes your hair look beautiful and your skin looks nice and plump, and you have energy, and you're able to lose weight, and your brain is sharp. All of that. T3 is the working horse. So magnesium helps the conversion of T4 to T3. I use extensively magnesium with estrogen dominance. And so in the program that's coming up, and for those of you who are joining a little bit late, our Estrogen Reset Life is happening already in a week's time. We're going to be opening up doors to the program. So on the 9th of September, and you can join us for doing it live together. It's a 4-week program. So one of the things you will see in Estrogen Reset and my whole protocol in estrogen dominance is just the effectiveness of magnesium on estrogen dominance is profound. One of the ways this happens is that it supports phase 2 liver detoxification. Magnesium does, which is so vital to help you basically detox you from what I call the dirty estrogens. Those are the estrogens that are problematic. I've had a number of women saying, and this includes me too, is that their lumpy breasts have disappeared after taking magnesium. And the question is how much of taking it. Some of you may say, I've had somebody say to us before, yeah, but I've taken magnesium, it's in my multivitamin, and my lumpy breasts are not going away. It's probably because the form of magnesium and the amount is not enough. So let's talk about this in just a second. So then the other thing it does is magnesium also calms, it's a very calming mineral. So when it calms everything down, it also calms your nervous system. And guess what? If it calms down your nervous system, it's also calm down your whole endocrine system as well, which is the HPA axis, which what we call high cortisol adrenal fatigue. I don't like that term, but it can definitely reduce adrenaline. It reduces cortisol release. How many of you here have felt like a lot of the symptoms of the magnesium deficiency have come on after you were stressed out? I certainly feel that, and that includes traveling. Traveling is also a form of stress. Or if I'm going through physical or psychological stress because of typically it's a work project in my case, there's just a lot of like attention or launch, there's a lot of work. I just immediately feel like my body gets depleted from magnesium, and I start showing some of the signs of depletion of magnesium. So replenishing that or taking more magnesium during times of stress is actually a really good idea. It also helps to increase insulin sensitivity. So that means that if you have high blood sugar balance, you have like prediabetes, diabetes, you're dealing with PCOS, your blood sugar markers have been identified as being too high. Yes, reducing sugar is very important, and then adding also magnesium on top of that could really help you. It helps with the production of steroid hormones. So some of you were just commenting about DHEA and your testosterone being low. Adding magnesium to your mix is really quite important. And then lastly, I would just mention that it helps to increase serotonin levels. So, everybody knows serotonin as the antidepressant. It's not the full story, but yes, so partly magnesium gets converted. It helps the conversion of tryptophan into serotonin. So it is the conversion happens, and we call it a cofactor. A certain cofactors have to be present. So even if you're taking an amino acid like tryptophan in a supplemental form, because there's no serotonin in supplements, you've got to take the precursor, the amino acid. Your body is then still relying on sufficient amount of magnesium to convert that to serotonin for you to feel better and for your depression to lift, and just having like this, like a bit of an elated feeling, if you will, okay? So as you can see, pretty powerful mineral, right? Okay, so let's talk about the different kinds of forms of magnesium, because I know many of you here are now asking about that. So it's time to talk about that. So, let's see. Let me just take a quick look at the comments. What else are you guys taking? Daily dose recommendations. Yeah. So many of you here are asking about different forms. So let me address them right up front. So the one form of magnesium you do not want to be taking, okay, is what we call magnesium oxide. And if you're picking up a bottle of your multivitamin, and I have seen, for example, a lot of multivitamins coming from multi-level marketing companies, which I will openly say I am not a fan. Most of them are very misleading, and the money goes towards the network of building the whole pyramid rather than in making quality products. And so I have seen this over and over again. You pick up a bottle of supplement, right, like a multivitamin, and you look at the type of magnesium. It's either says magnesium oxide, so that's the cheapest form of magnesium, is also the least bioavailable form of magnesium. And if you were to go up in a dose that I'm going to describe in a second how to do that, you're actually many people develop, for example, joint pains and a lot of GI problems. Magnesium oxide in higher doses becomes a laxative. And so you might say, well, it's great for constipation. Yes, but if your objective is to replenish your levels, then magnesium oxide ain't gonna deliver that. And what I have found is that if a company is using magnesium oxide in their products, they generally cut corners on all the other ingredients they are using in the supplement. And you have to remember the supplements are an unregulated industry. So that means that, I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating, but not really. Like, I can just take this chair that I'm sitting on, grind it up, turn it into powder, put it in pills, and start marketing it. And FDA won't be able to shut me down. They can shut me down based on the claims that I'm making, but not on the product that I'm making. That's how crazy this industry is, so that you know. So it's a very self-regulated industry. And we, that's part of the reason why we work with very highly reputable contract manufacturers, so that to ensure that we have top quality and all the testing done before and after manufacturing. So magnesium oxide, big thing. Kamalani, if we can put this on the screen, the magnesium oxide is a big no-no. So then what kind of magnesium is great? So let's talk about my favorite. My favorite, which I see best results in my own body, but also in our community and hormones balance, is what many of you are mentioning here on the screens, both on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, is that magnesium glycinate or glycinate, however you want to pronounce it, is the right form of magnesium for most people. Okay, why we love it is because it is the most bioavailable form of magnesium, meaning that, for example, if you take 300, 600 milligrams of magnesium, and stay tuned, I'm going to talk about doses and what is the right dose for you specifically in just a second. So let's just say if you take 300, 600 milligrams of magnesium, only a percentage of that is going to be actually bioavailable to the body to absorb. And glycinate or glycinate has the highest bioavailability available. To give you a comparison, we are talking about 30% versus like something like oxide being only 4% bioavailable, right? So big difference. And then the other thing I was gonna say, glycinate. So glycinate is very relaxing form of magnesium. It's not a sedative, meaning that if you take it in the morning, it's not gonna put you to sleep, okay? But if you take it at night and you're already winding down, because your hormones should be coming down by this time in the evening, by 7, 8 o'clock, you should be like winding down, and then taking magnesium then can tremendously help your sleep. During the day, it might help you with anxiety, might help you feel just, it might help you go to the bathroom, et cetera, et cetera. So that is my absolute best, my recommended form of magnesium. And, in our store, in our product is called Magnesium Replenish. So we make that with glycinate and nothing else. So if you feel like supporting us, then you can get that on our store. Now, the other form of magnesium that I want to address is my other second favorite form of magnesium is magnesium malate. Malate is so the malic acid is the molecule that the magnesium is attached to, okay, because we need a carrier for it. And magnesium malate is very energizing. So that's why we call it in our store, we have magnesium malate, it's called Magnesium Mag Energy. And Mag Energy is kind of cool because it has a couple of different functions. One is still highly bioavailable, is energizing, so it's a great form of magnesium first thing in the morning. However, I've learned it the hard way, and I recommend for you not to do that, is to take it at night. When I first started taking magnesium malate, this was like, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, and we had a consultant working with us, and I'm like, hey, Julie, I can't sleep, right? And she's like, okay, well, what time are you taking your magnesium? She's like, what's changed? I said, I added this new magnesium. She says, what kind? I said, magnesium malate. And then she goes, oh, okay. And then what time are you taking your malate? I'm like, before going to bed. She said, that's why you can't sleep. So I had like these 3-4 days of just having, I mean, I was so sharp in my head. I could just sit down in bed and do crossword puzzles and do like mathematical equations because I was so stimulated. So magnesium malate, and Kamalani, if we can post the names of the magnesium on the screen as well. So malate is really super great for energy creation. The other thing the magnesium malate is wonderful for is that for those of you who are big into exercise and you need a bit of, like, if you're feeling a little tired after your workout, there's actually a really good sign that your adrenals might be a little bit, so your whole HPA axis might be a little bit burned out. You should not be feeling, you should be, there's a tired and a tired, right? There is like a tired after exercise, as in being like, I'm worked out, but I'm still able to function. I can get dressed and go to work, go to my next, my next whatever project, right? But not to a point where I need to take a nap after my exercise. If that is you, you're gonna back off and slow down and look at your adrenal health. However, when it comes to magnesium energy, our Mag Energy, magnesium malate is a really wonderful form of magnesium to help you recover after exercise. And that's one of the things that it does. It helps to metabolize the electrolytes that you are taking. Magnesium malate is not an electrolyte, okay? But it helps the electrolytes to get better absorbed into the body. So for those of you who have seen our product, we have a product in our store called Morning Ritual, and that's got all the electrolytes in it. Magnesium malate that's the reason why malate is one of the ingredients in that. Hey guys, I'm gonna come over to I'm gonna come to your questions in just a second. So let me just finish the different types. So then some of you are also asking about magnesium citrate. Yes, so magnesium citrate is also something we sell in our store. Magnesium citrate is pretty popular, became popular because magnesium calm. I think many of you know it. It's like magnesium that, yes, and it can calm you down. The part that I don't love about magnesium citrate is because of citrate, depending, again, how you want to pronounce it, is that it can give you a diarrhea. And so it is a laxative. It pulls the water out of the intestines and gives you a laxative effect. And what I don't love about it is that you're gonna get the shits first before you can replenish your levels. And hey, you guys, we're gonna be talking about the right type of dosage in just a second. Okay, so stay for that one. But Chris is saying, can you take too much magnesium? Yes, you can. And citrate is a good example of that. And loose bowel movement is one of the indications. So on that in just a sec. So citrate is not my favorite, but citrate, I do like using citrate when I'm traveling, because same as probably many of you and here is I get constipated when I travel. And so even if it's just, a short flight over I was just visiting a friend in Texas a couple of weeks ago, and I got constipated for like 3 days. And I'm like, where's my magnesium citrate? Why? I forgot to bring it. So I had to go and buy one. So that's those are the main ones. There are some other forms of magnesiums that are just generally not very well researched. And so it's hard for me to comment on those. The one that is also well researched that we don't sell it in our store, but you can easily get on Amazon, I'm sure, is magnesium threonate. And threonate is a form of magnesium that penetrates the brain barrier very effectively. And there's a lot of people with cognitive decline, so things like memory issues. There are some studies showing threonate applications for patients of Alzheimer's. That form of magnesium can be very helpful too. So that's another consideration to take. So, and then I also want to talk about one more form of magnesium, which is kind of cool, and that's a topical form of magnesium. In our store, it's called a quick magnesium. So this is in a form of magnesium chloride, not chlorine, like in the water is chloride. And as you can see, let me just do a little drop here. So you can see, right? It's like it's basically in a aloe version. So we suspended an aloe, and you just put that on the place that hurts the most. You can also put, so for example, if you're having, you know, a tight shoulder, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're having a cramp, that what you do is you can then apply it on the pain point and leave it on there for about 20 minutes. If it's tingling and you feel uncomfortable, then just wash it out. But you need about 20 minutes for it to be absorbed through the dermis, through the skin, right, into the lymphatic system, into the bloodstream. 1 teaspoon of the quick magnesium will give you 200 milligrams of magnesium, okay? And then the other way, you can also apply topical magnesium on not just where it hurts, but you can also apply it on your liver. Remember how I said magnesium is a key mineral for you to support your liver detoxification? Well, so applying it just topically on the liver just gets in there really quickly. And same as I oftentimes mix it up with my castor oil. Many of you know us as, you know, we brought on Dr. Marisol Tejero a number of times, and she's the poop queen and the castor oil queen, right? And so I oftentimes mix her castor oil on that compress that she's using, that she's selling. Is so awesome. That way it's not so messy. And I add a little bit of magnesium into it, and then just put it over my liver and go to sleep with it. Is it typical for the topical to leave a white film? Yes, it is. In fact, when it dries up in just a second, I can show you, I can come back to this. Yes, it's very normal. That's why most people will wash it off. Anecdotally, and I want to stress anecdotally, there is a belief that if it tingles a lot is because you are low on magnesium. I've never seen any research on that, but whatever. So I think you can go by your symptoms. You can also do simple blood testing on magnesium to know your levels. Okay, so let's talk about, what is the right dosage of magnesium, right? Like, how do you know how much to take? And see, like, your dose of magnesium is gonna be different from mine, right? Because I have been taking magnesium for a long time and I'm fairly replenished, my bucket is pretty full, where yours might not be yet. And so if you're showing a lot of the symptoms that we talked about at the beginning of this video, then it's worthwhile for you to definitely consider adding magnesium to your protocol. So what is the dosage? So the best thing is I like to be conservative, and conservative means that you start off with 300 milligrams. And so, for example, our Magnesium Replenish here has got 240 milligrams. So it's about that. That gives you 2 pills. That gives you 240 milligrams. That's your starting point. Always, when you introduce a new supplement, be slow and conservative. Do it one at a time, just in case on rare occasions, if you're having a reaction, then you just back off and you stop taking it, right? But I find that with citrate, people are having a lot of reactions and GI issues because of the laxative effect. But when it comes to glycinate, it's typically really good and safe. So you start off with that dose, and then you do what's called a bowel test. And the bowel test is you go up in your dose of magnesium, whether it's glycinate, you can also use malate. I will not use citrate for that, because citrate is going to give you the runs very, very quickly without properly replenishing. And so when you start out with 240, you look at your stool. If your stool is not loose yet, then you keep going up the dose. So the following day, for example, you might take double the dose. So you take 480. Okay, so I'm talking here about our magnesium replenish is 240, so I'm just using that. But you can start off with 300 and go up to 600. Here's 240, so then you go up to 480, right? 480 milligrams. And then you continue that until you basically get a loose stool. But this is, of course, assuming that your diet is correct, like you haven't eaten anything, you don't have a diarrhea, from something else, right? And that's your signal, that's your body signal saying, I've had enough magnesium, back off. And this is when you back off, and then you basically then, stay on the dose that your body needs. So that's the reason why it could be so different from for everybody. I have, when I was in private practice, I used to work with women who have to take as much as, 2,400 milligrams. So 2,400, 240 milligrams. So 10 of these in order to finally get a bowel movement. Okay. But there was also, with that, they got the loose stool, so they backed off, right? But also with that, for example, that particular person that I'm thinking about that I used to work with, let's just call her Allie. And Allie also had a lot of she had fibrocystic breasts, very lumpy breasts. And her story was that it was so painful she couldn't put on a bra during just before her periods. You know how before your period, our estrogen goes up pretty high, right? Progesterone, and then everything starts dropping, and there's just a lot of commotion before your period. And so the elevation of estrogen can cause a lot of the tenderness, especially when you have estrogen dominance in general. So Allie had such fibrocystic breasts, such painful breasts, that she couldn't even put on a bra before her period. And I mean, no talking about touching her breasts. She couldn't do any exercise during that time because she was a busty woman. And then basically all her breast issues resolved, and we didn't even make that many other changes. It was magnesium that really made a huge difference. So, but her dose was 2,400 milligrams, and then she backed off to 1,800. And so my daily dose, for example, is so I take Mag Energy in the morning. That's my morning dose, and we have here 360 milligrams. They get from 2 pills. So and I love it because that's the energizing form of magnesium, right? And then in the evening before going to bed, I take our magnesium glycinate because it is highly relaxing. Amanda is asking, do you take it long term? Yes. So that's a good question. So I want to talk a little bit about, let's talk about magnesium in food, right? So, many of you know me as being the cookbook author. I talk about food a lot. I talk a lot about herbs because I'm an herbalist too, right? So, and I love all these things. And, and I really, really, really wish that all our minerals, and as well as all the minerals, vitamins, and trace minerals all came from food. Unfortunately, food has changed a lot. Our farming practices have changed tremendously. And so, we used to farm by like putting bone meal back into the soil, by putting manure into the soil. And all of those had mineral diversity to replenish the soil with everything, including magnesium, okay? We don't do that anymore. The fertilizers that I use, even in organic farming, is what's called NPK. It's got the N is your nitrogen, right? P is your potassium, K is a potassium, P is your phosphorus, right? So everything is NPK, because it makes the vegetables grow bigger, but nobody's putting magnesium into the soil. So food alone, I have found, and let me tell you, I've been a supplement fascist. Like, I hated supplements for a very, very long time. And I was in private practice. I used to have women walking into my office with bags of supplements and spending like $800 a month on supplements, and they were still so sick, and their doctors were just pushing supplements on them, and I hated that. So I was very adamant that nutrition can fix everything, and then I started having problems. In spite of having a good diet, it just wasn't enough. I was showing a lot of symptoms of low magnesium, and ever since I started taking it, just everything started falling back into place. So there is a few foods. Give me an example. Like remember how I said cacao and craving chocolate could be one of the signs. And yes, cacao is high. But in order to get, and I talk about it in my books, that 320 milligrams of cacao. Sorry, I need to get a sip of water. In order for you to get, for example, 320 milligrams of magnesium, you need to consume something like a whole cup of cacao. If you look at the amount of magnesium that's in cacao, that's what you need to get 320 milligrams. I mean, most people ain't gonna do that, right? And if you are, then most likely cacao actually on its own is very bitter, and so you need to put some sugar in. Then you're overdosing with sugar, etc., etc. So there isn't a lot of foods. I mean, there are like cashews are high, and so is avocado is high in magnesium, which is a really nice way of maintaining some form of levels of magnesium, but I feel like I have personally never been able to get off magnesium completely and be free of the symptoms. So, my dose is 600 milligrams a day, 700 or so. So to answer your question, Amanda, yes, I feel like overall, I always try to look at supplements as a short-term solution for women's health. But when it comes to magnesium, this is gonna be together with a few other things like vitamin D3, I think, and probably omegas for the anti-inflammatory response. Bees, unless you have access to great livers and you love eating livers, then it's great. Then you get a full profile of vitamin Bs. I also find like I really do very well on selenium because of my history with Hashimoto's, and so this is something that I do take. So the answer is yes. So magnesium, I will say it's something that if you want to have a quality of life, then you would be taking that as a long-term solution. Many of you asking here about shipping to Canada. I'm sorry, we don't. It's just a nightmare to get supplements over the border. Every country has different regulations with their customs. However, what you can do is, first of all, go and look for stuff in your own country. Like I'm giving you the education here. Look at the type of magnesium, malate and glycinate, right? And just go and get in your own country. A lot of health food stores in Canada, you guys have so many different options. Just go and get it there. For those of you who are living maybe in places you can't get access to good, clean supplements, then there is a service called myus.com. So myus.com. If you buy a shipload of things and ship it over to them, you set up an account with them. It's your US address, and they will forward it to you. Just don't do that with any hormones. Like, for example, don't buy our progesterone, Progest Pure, or progesterone, try to ship it to any country, because it's not going to work. Let me take another few questions. Juliet is asking, thyroid multinodule goiter patient. Can you say how much? Can you say me how I learned it? I don't understand the question. Sorry. Let me just, if you can just clarify exactly what is your question. Chris is saying, can you take too much magnesium? Yes, you can. And this is where you're going to get the loose bowels. Hey, Instagram, I'm going to come over to your questions in just a second. Questions about pregnancy. I don't consult on pregnancy. And so that's Dr. Jolene Brighton has got a great blog for mamas who are getting ready to be a mama. So follow her there, and she's got a lot of great advice. Should we divide magnesium dosage throughout the day, or this is a good question. Should we divide magnesium dosage throughout the day, or can we take that all at once? So that's a great question. So the answer is that I do suggest to break it up, just because your body can only absorb so much when you do a big dose. And so that's the reason why I space out mine, do glycinate malate in the morning, and then glycinate at night. And that kind of reminds me, we have something called the magnesium rotation method. And so this is basically like using a cycle, so that you can, and we have that in our store as a package, and you can get that with a discount. Where all the different types of magnesium, so the citrate, malate, glycinate, and the topical magnesium, the quick magnesium, are packaged into one, and on that you get a discount. But it's just the rotation method basically means you start off with the glycinate and malate in the morning, you do glycinate at night, you do citrate when you're constipated or when you travel, and then do the topical on your liver, as well as when you have some tension or cramps going on at night. All right, hey, you guys, I'm going to jump over to Instagram because I feel like I'm not answering any questions there. When you are saying your personal dosage, are you including the magnesium? Yeah, so Adriana is asking, so yes, I'm talking about malate and glycinate as the forms of magnesium to test it out. Adriana is asking a follow-up to the bowel threshold question. If you're taking two kinds of magnesiums morning and night, do you find your threshold for each separately? No, I look at them together. Myra is asking, what time of the night do you take it? Just received my package today. So I take it right before going to bed, but you can take it in the evening as well after dinner, especially when you're sensitive, if your stomach is sensitive and you want to take it with food. And remember, one of the things I talked about getting good quality sleep, you guys, is to really eat at least 2-3 hours before going to sleep, right? So, if your stomach is sensitive, take it with your dinner 2-3 hours before going to bed. If you like, my stomach is not very sensitive, so then I can take mine just before going to bed. They didn't really leave the white film. I guess it's just not. Maybe I put quite a lot on it, but when it does finally dry out, and it's not like, for me, it's not very sticky, it's not very tingly, but some people find it tingly. So just allow it 20 minutes, let it absorb, then you wash it off. Is there such a thing as magnesium overdose? I already addressed that. You basically get very loose bowels. Okay, so New Body and Soul Mom is asking, which one would you recommend for clients with brain fog during perimenopause? So that's a great question. And so I would say magnesium malate, because L-threonate might be a really great one. But I would also look into what's causing the brain fog and some of the typical causes. The two big ones from my experience, and there's more, but because now I'm just like, my head is like, oh my God, there's so many different reasons why you have a brain fog. But one of them is, so the person could also be low on B vitamins. So B vitamins also have a big impact on your brain, right? Like B6, vitamin B12, B1, all of them play a huge role in the brain. It could also be because of food sensitivity. So for example, I used to get a lot of brain fog when I was still eating dairy, gluten. So gluten, in my case, is gluten, but overall, it's just having done the elimination diet can really help with brain fog as well, and identifying what is the food that's causing the person's brain fog. So this, and then I think the last thing I'll just mention is also low thyroid function. So women with low thyroid function also feel like everything is behind a fog, like just things are just not very fast, and thyroid also works on the brain, right? So especially the T3 that I talked about, magnesium actually helps with the T4 to T3 conversion. So yes, so try magnesium malate, but there's a lot of other things to consider as well if that's not working. You make me want to run out and get magnesium malate. Okay, good. This question about DIM, I'm not going to talk about DIM, but we do have that in our store. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much... Andrea is asking, do you have a multivitamin? We don't, but we have one that helps with a multivitamin that's for metabolism improvement for people with issues with sugar. Thank you for all the kind comments here. Oh, that's an interesting one. So Peba Molina is saying, I use all 3 types of magnesium from Madalena. I just realized I have not bought dark chocolate and I'm in a better mood and not anxious at all. Nice. Very good. Can I take magnesium with your regular vitamins? Totally. Yeah, regular vitamins have magnesium oxide. So also another thing to consider is, can you take magnesium, a supplement together with your multivitamins? Yes, you can. And one of the things to realize, like if you look at your multivitamin, first of all, you guys, if you're watching this on replay, pause it, go or put me on a speakerphone, go and get your bottle of multivitamin. Take a look at the form of magnesium that's used. Like I said, if it's magnesium oxide, first of all, it's a terrible type of magnesium, but it's also, most of the time, they will use like 60 milligrams, 80 milligrams or so, which is insignificant to replenish your magnesium levels. So that's not really, it's more of a very mild maintenance form and not even oxide, right? It should be malate or glycinate form. Those are the good types of magnesiums that you should find. The other thing I've noticed, what a lot of these really poor quality supplements do, including multivitamins, they will say magnesium, just magnesium. And they don't specify which type, which I feel like it's so rude to the customer not to say what kind of magnesium are you using. And it's only when you email them and ask them, they're like, magnesium oxide. You're like, oh, I thought so. So there we have it. Okay, I'm gonna take one more question. Is there anything you should avoid having at the same time as magnesium? That's a great question. Not to my knowledge, and typically it does not interfere too much with other compounds. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I take magnesium all the time with other things and it seems to be working. Nicole is saying I take 1,200 milligrams daily magnesium. If I go lower, I get constipated. Is that too much long term? No, it's not. Not at all. You just go for it, girlfriend. Mel is saying, can you take magnesium supplement close to levothyroxine, which is a thyroid replacement, or do you need to wait for a few hours? Yes. So when you're taking a levothyroxine, you should get a whole list of things that, I mean, everything from coffee, anything with salt, anything that can bind up the hormone, you should not be taking that together. So I think the window is 2 hours away from levothyroxine. Okay. Hey, you guys, I hope this is, so somebody's asking, Maria's asking, what about magnesium bisglycinate? So it's the same thing. It's just because it's got 2 molecules of glycinate and one molecule of magnesium. That's why it's called bisglycinate. So it's basically the same thing. So, okay, great. Well, I hope you guys that this was helpful for you to open up your eyes onto the incredible mineral called magnesium and have a lot more appreciation for it. Certainly my appreciation has raised ever since I got the book that I was telling you about, The Magnesium Miracle. That was just like my aha, just my jaw dropping, how amazing it is. So, all right, well, hope you start your magnesium journey. If you're having sleeping problems, do watch my video from last week about how to fix your sleep after 45. And magnesium is just a small part of it. There's a lot of other things you can do to improve your sleep. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here, for your lovely questions, and happy healing, and I'll see you soon.